every step we took, the water was just coming in over our ankles, and yeah, it was just pure bogland and marsh, and it was very demoralising at that stage of the event. And I suppose it tested both our patience, really.
Episode 277, Shaun Stewart talks about the Ireland High Peaks Challenge. This episode is sponsored in part by Health IQ. Health IQ uses science and data to secure special rates on life insurance for health-conscious people. Learn more and get a free quote online at healthiq.com/adventure. You're listening to the Adventure Sports Podcast, brought to you by 180 Tech. We talk with adventurers from around the globe to bring you the inspiration and motivation you need to get started in the outdoors or to keep you moving if you're already there. Now here's your host, Kurt Linville.
Hi friends, Kurt here. Hey, I have a wonderful guest for us today. Shaun Stewart has joined us from Ireland. And Shaun is an ultra athlete of all different sorts. He has done ski expeditions. He's a scuba diver. He really enjoys mountain biking, sea kayaking. Used to do a lot of distance cycling, and now his main focus this year is on ultra distance running. He recently completed a feat that I think is pretty clever and amazing. He and his buddy, Lonan O'Farrell, just did the High Peaks Challenge. And what that means is that they climbed the 32 highest peaks in the 32 counties of Ireland. And it's no small thing. They did this in 60 hours and 35 minutes, which meant they had to cover over 160 kilometers and ascend more than 10,000 meters. So we're talking about a little bit more than from sea level to the top of Everest. And they raise some money for charity in so doing. So I want to hear about this. Shaun, welcome to the program.
Hi, Curtis. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you bet. So, Shaun, I just gave everyone the teaser about the High Peaks Challenge in Ireland, and I want to come back to that in a minute. But first, I want to find out who you are. So you do all of these different adventure sports. How did you get started with all these sports?
Yeah, I suppose quite a variety of sports. It started from a young age, really. I suppose I'm probably a product of my environment. I live in the northwest of Ireland here in County Donegal, and it's really an outdoors paradise. It's situated with mountains, and the Atlantic Ocean's on my doorstep. So really, from a young age, I was out exploring in the forests and hills. So it was always there. I suppose I've really tapped into it this last kind of maybe 8 or 10 years. So yeah, it's great. It's a great place for mountain biking. Hill walking is very popular here. And then with the sea beside us, some of the best surfing in Ireland is 5 minutes away. So yeah, it's just a brilliant place to live, and I'm delighted to be able to train here and call it my home.
Oh, that's fantastic. Before we started recording, you mentioned that you have been encouraging other people to try to focus on doing local adventures. And we were talking about how a lot of people do the big, massive adventures, like going to the poles or climbing the 7 summits around the globe or that sort of thing. But you've really focused on finding things that you can do locally that can kind of push the envelope and let people know there's stuff to do right on your doorstep.
Yeah, for sure. We're all pretty stuck for time and money a lot of the time. So myself personally, I always try to go on ventures that are manageable, even local ones. And like a perfect example is just last weekend, there's a small adventure race here locally, and there was over 500 people did it. And you had all sorts, you had the elite athletes right down to people who just completed a 5K last summer for the first time. So, I'd be a big advocate of trying to promote that and just getting people outdoors. So many people run to gyms and pay big memberships, yet on their back door they've got a training ground. It's just getting out and making the most of things, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, tell us about that race a little bit more. You said an adventure race with 500 people. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's big numbers, but set off in waves. So 5 different waves of roughly 100 people. So it's the adventure racing scene in Ireland. It's more multi-sport racing. They call it adventure racing, but most of it is actually a laid out route. So it's a mixture of, say, running, off-road, on-road, transitioning onto a bike section. They might put in a kayak of maybe 2 to 3 kilometers in length, and then you also probably have a hill or a mountain to climb. It's really popular in Ireland at the moment. There's a really good scene in it, and every month there's at least two that you could be doing, either locally or within a 2 to 3 hour drive. So yeah, it's great. It's really what I'm into at the moment.
It sounds like it's pretty popular there as well.
It is. I think they've really evolved this last couple of years because so many people were doing 5K runs, and then eventually they got a bit fed up with that distance, and they're looking for something extra, and they bought a bike, and one thing leads to another, So yeah, it's really popular, and it's great to see. I mean, people now are taking on bigger challenges every other year. There's a massive race here. It's maybe similar standard to the Coast to Coast New Zealand. It's called the race.ie, and it's a 24-hour endurance event. So like Donegal really is the hub for it at the moment.
So a 24-hour race.
Yeah, 24 hours. Well, it's about 260 kilometers. So yeah, it's a hell of a race. I actually did it myself this year. I was second in it. So there's about 65 kilometers of running, 160 odd K of biking, and then there's a mountain and a 12-kilometer kayak in it at some stage as well. So yeah, it's a long day out.
Wow, very long day. So I got to rewind a little bit. The distances that you just threw out there, I think that for the majority of people around the planet, that sounds like it's not doable. But a lot of people have shown it can be done, and you took second. Congratulations on that. But how do you work your way into doing these sorts of races, this much distance?
Yeah, well, there's quite a good group locally who were training. They dedicated about 6 months training to it, and like anything, it's progression. These guys maybe did half marathons and maybe the Dublin Marathon, which is popular here in Ireland, a few years back, and then maybe we're doing charity cycles, sportifs, and it's just really a matter of amalgamating everything. So yeah, I suppose training wise, it does take up a lot of time. You're looking to do quite long sessions of maybe anywhere from 6 up to 10 hours in preparation for these events. But what I like about them is the great variety of training. You're not just focusing on running all the time or biking all the time. Every day is slightly different. You're on mountains a day, you're running roads, you're cycling, you're kayaking. So it's a variety really that keeps me going. If I just had to focus on one discipline, I think it'd be a lot tougher and also tougher on the body.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So of all the sports that you do, and you do a bunch there, which one is your favorite?
Yeah, I think deep down the bike is my favorite. I always cycle. I cycled from a very young age. I suppose I really got into racing when I was about 12 years of age. And I raced competitively till I was about 16. And I actually got a bad bout of glandular fever. And it just knocked me back for a year, really. And I just gave up the bike for a couple of years when I went to university. And I suppose when I was 20, then I got back into it and started racing again and got to a pretty good level here in Ireland. And the bike is probably my love. There's nothing nicer than going out on a good day and following the coastal roads around Donegal. It's just beautiful.
So what is the landscape like there? You mentioned that you've got mountains and you have the coast, but for someone that's never seen a picture of it, how would you describe it?
Yeah, I suppose it's your typical picture of Ireland. Is a lot of green. Where we are on the coastline, it's quite hilly and mountainous, so the hills of Donegal will be famous. There's very little flat road, so the minute you step on your bike, you're training. But no, it's beautiful. I mean, where we are it's pretty much disconnected from the rest of the country, so we've lots of quiet roads and empty beaches. And it's quite popular with tourists in the summer, but during the winter months and that, it's you have everything to yourself. It's beautiful, but our mountains here wouldn't be massive in altitude. They're anywhere from 600 meters to 800 meters, so they're not huge, but they're still quite tough in that there's very little trail on them. You're pretty much beating your own path across bogland and heather. So anybody who's been to Scotland, it's quite similar terrain to that.
1,800 meters, that's not small when you realize you're climbing from sea level.
Yeah, I suppose all our mountains basically start at sea level. So there's, Ireland's a pretty small island. And the middle of the island is pretty flat and at low altitude. So most of the mountains skirt the sea. So yeah, you're basically starting on a beach or on a coastline, and then you're at the top of a mountain looking down on it. So yeah, the views are pretty good around here.
In Colorado, we climb a lot of 14ers, 14,000-foot peaks, and they sound like they're quite a bit higher than your 1,800-meter peak, which is about 5,900 feet, something like that, just to translate. But the reality is most of the 14ers, you start your climb maybe at 9 or 10,000 feet. So if you're climbing 1,800 meters in Ireland, you can actually do more verts.
I think you actually misheard me there. They're all under 1,000 meters, so probably anywhere from 600 to 800 meters.
So 800.
Yeah, I'd love to have ones that high, but unfortunately, there's only a couple that break the 1,000. Yeah.
Well, that's still a pretty substantial climb. We're talking about 2,600 vertical feet, and so that's not as much as I was saying, but still, that's not a small thing. A lot of mountains that you do climb in places with higher peaks, the beginning of the climb is so high that a 2,600 foot climb is it's notable.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, for sure. Like our highest peak in the country is Carrauntoohil, and the vertical there is it basically is 1,000 meters because you're starting at sea level. So yeah, it's 3,000 feet roughly, or just over that. So yeah, it's our mountains they rise from the sea. So as you say, you're not really starting elevation before you start climbing them. So it's you're at the base of every mountain, and you've got to work your way to the summit. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So let's talk just a little bit about your trail running. Why did you start trail running, and why would you recommend it for other people? What do you like about it?
Yeah, I suppose I first got into trail running about 4 years ago, and it was more just by accident in that I was getting down here and I had a couple of good years to pick, and I just found my time was limited between building a house and marrying that. So I started running because it was easier to get out, do an hour running early in the morning or late at night. And I ended up building up towards marathon distance and did a couple of marathons. And I suppose being where I am, and there's forest behind me here, a lot of trails, so I just was running the trails all the time, and I found myself much stronger in the hills than I would be, let's say, fast cadence in the road. So it eventually just led me to trail running, and I did a few local races in Ireland here, and then I actually applied to the Ultra Trail de Mont Blanc, their smallest race, which is the OCC. It's 54 kilometers. So I kind of aimed towards that as part holiday, part challenge, and I did that, and I just fell in love with it. Just that area and just the whole sport and atmosphere around it. It really grabbed me, and I suppose since then I've just been hooked on it. And I suppose the big advantage of trail running, as opposed to going out and hammering out road miles, is that it's much easier on your body. Your joints, is not quite as sore in your knees, your hips as the road would be. And also there's a great variety. You're crossing beaches, you're running trails, you're on mountains, so it's not just on the pavement or the tar road all the time. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the trail.
So how much harder do you think trail running is than road running?
I actually think they're totally different in a way. The road running is very much down to numbers and pace and having to hit certain targets. The trail running, yeah, there's a bit of that, but it's very much trying to manage your heart rate and your whole body over the course of maybe a 100-kilometer race. So yeah, it's really more of a mental battle as well. But I think it's, for me, the trail running is ultimate, because you've got to have perfect coordination when you're descending. There's a skill to your ascending and descending. So it requires a lot more skill level as well.
I think the challenge for me would be that you have so many obstacles and uneven terrain, and you get very, very tired on a long run. So now it's a matter of navigating all these obstacles when you're already exhausted. That's got to be tough.
Yeah, that's part of it, and I think it comes down to your conditioning. You got a really strong core, just to be able to keep everything stable and intact. As obviously as you get more tired, you're going to lose your form, and it's quite easy then to roll ankles or put knees out. So yeah, it's your conditioning and your mental training leading up to it is as important as anything else, definitely.
Well, let's rewind a little bit and let's talk about adventure sports in general in Ireland. You mentioned that there are quite a few events that you can participate in this adventure race with 500 people. But how would you say, is Ireland an adventure-focused country, or would you describe it some other way?
I would say it has been quite competitive up until the last kind of 5 years. Up until then, yeah, people were doing little 5Ks and 10Ks. It's only really in the last number of years that people have realised that they can push their boundaries a little bit more. And I've actually seen a lot of races pop up, that are running into 100-kilometre races and into more of the ultra scene. Even here in Donegal, there's an ultra cycling race, 555 kilometres. So it's a hell of a race. It takes in the whole coastline of our county, and it's open to teams and solo riders. So there's a massive uptake in that. And there's a good social element to it as well. There's a lot of people taking it on. But no, as opposed to the adventure scene, people here, the Irish are they're quite keen to take on a challenge. I mean, we have a lot of good mountaineers and ocean roars, as you well know. But people in general, I think, are starting to get outdoors more, especially since we had a recession here a couple of years back. There's a lot of people with a lot of time on their hands, and I think people now are realizing that there's more to life than just work and money all the time.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I personally, and everyone that listens to this show knows that I preach this all the time, but I think adventure sports are so healthy and so encouraging. They add so much quality to life. So I'm glad to hear that they're becoming more popular, no matter where it is on the planet. That's awesome.
Yeah, they are for sure. And I suppose people see the benefits of it. Just the exercise in general is brilliant just for health and for your mental health. Especially it's a big topic in Ireland at the moment, is mental well-being. I suppose a lot of people had, as I said earlier, the recession, the downturn in the economy, it had an effect on a lot of people. So I think people then started to get out and go for walks and runs and out on their bikes. So yeah, it's great for clearing the head, and I know I benefit from it massively. And being a teacher in a secondary school, we have a big emphasis on exercise as well. It's great for stress relief, and you actually see the benefits on it with students. If they're worked up or stressed, and we take them for a quick run at lunchtime or to go out training, playing football, I mean the benefits are unbelievable.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So a teacher, secondary education. So what grades are those?
Yeah, so it's I suppose students from 12 years up to about 18. So yeah, it's I work in a mixed school, boys and girls, and yeah, I teach engineering, to be kind of pre-university engineering. So it's metalwork and the practical side of skills. So they kind of get an introductory lessons into like mechanical and electronic engineering. So yeah, it's a nice subject to teach. There's quite good interest in it, and I suppose it benefits them when they go on to university massively.
So what's a teaching schedule like in Ireland? I know in the U.S., a lot of teachers get more time off than some other career paths, and that's really great for adventure sports. What's it like there?
Yeah, same here. It's one of the big benefits of the job, really. My day is really 8:30 in the morning till about 4:30 in the evening. It means I've a lot of time in the evening time to train and to get outdoors. And then the holidays are quite good. I mean, I have a summer where I've just over 2 months off. So yeah, if you want to plan a big adventure, you can. So it's ideal for that.
That's really, really cool. Hey friends, Kurt here. We might have the healthiest audience of any podcast on the planet. I don't know. It just seems to me that people that are out there doing adventure sports have to be pretty healthy. They appreciate being healthy, and they love to get out there and move. And we recently got a new sponsor, Health IQ, and they reward people who love to be healthy. This is cool stuff. So, do you exercise 5 times a week? If so, then you probably think you deserve a different rate on your life insurance. You're not the smoker. You're not the one who's out there abusing his or her body and having a lot of health issues that result. Instead, you're out there moving and eating right and doing right things. So shouldn't your premiums be lower? Health IQ uses science and data to secure special rates on life insurance for health-conscious people like cyclists, runners, strength trainers, vegans, and more. Matter of fact, research shows that those who frequently exercise with some intensity have a 22% lower cancer risk, a 56% lower heart disease risk, and up to a 34% lower risk of an early death. So why not get rewarded for that? Historically, you get penalized for your family history, body mass index, and other attributes, but you don't get rewarded for your health-conscious lifestyle. Well, Health IQ does reward you for your health-conscious lifestyle with special rates on life insurance. How cool is that? To get more information and a free quote, go to healthiq.com/adventure and make sure you do use that /adventure. That makes sure that they know where you heard about them on the Adventure Sports Podcast. So healthiq.com/adventure. Thanks, guys. It's about time for some of this health-related life insurance. I love it. Well, let's go talk about your most recent big adventure. I want to get back to this High Peaks Challenge. So 32 counties, 32 peaks, 60 hours and 35 minutes. Tell us about this. What was that like?
Yeah, it was a great challenge. I did it along with a buddy of mine, Lonan O'Farrell. He's from County Galway. The two of us were actually racing rivals up to a couple of years back, and then we started doing these races and adventures together. So just before Christmas, we had just discussing something we could do, and I had read this challenge of doing the highest peak in every county in Ireland, and we thought, why not? We thought it's a good adventure. It's local. We don't need much time off to do it, and it's not going to cost a fortune. So yeah, we just set about a plan. We got a very good team behind us. So we actually got 4 drivers to look after all our logistics, and we just sat down and we got our maps out and planned every mountain. So yeah, it was a good challenge. I enjoyed the whole lead up to it, and the challenge itself, yeah, it was tough, but we set a new fastest known time on the challenge. So yeah, we're happy out.
So is this a big deal in Ireland? Do a lot of people try to do this?
Yeah, it's quite popular amongst hikers, and not many would try to set a speed record on it, purely because of it's demanding, and a lot of people might set out to do it over a summer or maybe even a week. There's a lady actually just completed it this week. She took, I think, 6 days to do it. So yeah, we said we knew the record was 87 hours 50 minutes, so we thought anything under that would be a benefit, but we set a target of 60 hours. And yeah, we smashed it. So 60 hours, 35 minutes. Yeah, it's quite popular, as I said, amongst hikers. And some guys have tried to run it, maybe not completed it all. So yeah, I think you'll see more people taking it on now since we broke the record.
You get to build a lot of interest around it, and that always makes other people want to give it a go, huh?
Yeah, for sure. We created quite a publicity. It was in a lot of the media there nationally for a week or so. Plus, too, it helped. We were raising money for a couple of charities here in Ireland. So yeah, they really got behind us, and it created a good atmosphere, and we had quite a lot of people coming out and cheering us on along the route. They were following our GPS tracker as we were doing it. So it was wonderful, really. We'd turn up in mountains, and there'd be people at the base of them, to meet us and to run along with us for a bit. So yeah, it was a great experience for us.
Wow, that's really fun. So let me guess here. You go to a peak, you climb it, you come back down, and then you have the drivers that are driving to the next one. And what are you doing between peaks? Yeah,
so probably just give you a little background on it. We started on the highest peak in Connacht, which is a province of Ireland, the highest peak in County Mayo, which was Wilray. So our official time started when we were at the summit of it. So we started descending from there, and we actually had arranged with a local guy who owns a rib to take us across Killary Fjord. So our first actually mode of transport was a boat, So by doing that, it saved us maybe an hour or more of driving time. So it was a great start to the adventure. It's kind of James Bond style. So in the boat, and then picked up by our crew in the van. So yeah, as you said, the journey between mountains was with our crew in the van, and yeah, we had to rest and recuperate and try and eat as best we could during that time. Our longest journeys were really only about 2 hours, so it was quite difficult to switch off. You were getting in the van, your heart rate was high and your blood was pumping, so you were trying to bring everything back down, and within maybe an hour you were back out again, approaching the next mountain. So yeah, I mean, I coped pretty well with it. Eating was the most difficult part, especially after the second day. Lonan found it very difficult with car sickness, so it was something we didn't foresee. After the maybe 6 hours, you're starting to feel a bit queasy, and it continued well into the second night, and eventually took its toll on him. But after a bit of sleep, he got together, and we finished strong.
Wow, it sounds crazy to me because of the amount of time involved. You're doing this crazy, difficult physical feat, and you're doing it for 2.5 days, right? And so that's going without a proper night's rest, and just a very short period of rest. You have to hit it again.
Yeah, so I think when I added up my sleep, I think I slept somewhere between 3 to 4 hours, which, to be honest, it did me okay because I can go pretty well without sleep. But I suppose the longest block I had was about 45 minutes. But yeah, it was enough just to reset the body and keep the mind fresh. But yeah, look, it was tough. As I said to you before, the eating was the hardest part. Your body just, it's upside down. It doesn't know if it's day or night, or should have eaten breakfast or dinner. So yeah, that was the most challenging part really for me, was trying to keep fueled and keep your carbohydrates and stuff stocked up. But yeah, look, it was great, and I would encourage anybody to take it on. It's a tough challenge, definitely is. I coped well. The physical side of things was tough going. Especially I really sore quads on the second day from the descending. By the time we got onto the near the end, the last 6 hours, it had all just gone away. I could have, we both said that if we had another day we could have. So I suppose that comes from our adventure racing scene too. We had trained quite a lot for long distance adventure racing, and we're quite used to pushing ourselves through the night.
Yeah, wow, that's tough stuff though. What were the rules that you used for this challenge? For instance, what does it mean to climb a mountain? And where do you start on each one, and how do you know when you're done?
Yeah, so there's a great guidebook out there by a guy called Kieran Gribben, and it has everything outlined. So we went by that as our criteria. So he has start-finish points for each mountain, and obviously we adhered to that. We started each mountain at his location and went to the summit. You had to get a photograph with the summit cairn or trig point or cross, whatever the marker was on top, and you had to log that with him. And then we also had to provide GPS details of everything. So we recorded every climb using GPS, and also our travel in between, because obviously that has to be accounted for, the land-based travel, so that you're not breaking speed limits and things like that. So yeah, it's quite strict in that sense, in that you've got to be fair from where you start and finish each mountain, and also your mode of transport. So it's pretty well defined there now in a guidebook, and also online on the website. And as I said, we carried a tracking system, so it was great for people just to be able to view it and see where we were every hour of the day. And it was good in the way that people were coming out to see us. They were watching the tracker, and they were able to drive to a certain point and see us on the road. So yeah, that was the real criteria that we adhered to. And yeah, we got certified there just as having the new record.
Oh, that's fun. Really fun. So would you do it again?
Possibly. We were both laughing. We were saying, would we ever do it again? And we said, well, if it's broken, we may go back. But yeah, at the moment, I don't see it happening. But if we were to do it again, I imagine we could shave a couple hours off it. Just knowing, the layers, navigation layers we might have made on certain mountains. But Yeah, it's something that we might do in the future, or something you might do for fun, and that you might take in the scenery. We didn't take much time to look around us, so it might be nice to do it just as a low key challenge sometime again.
Well, how much does the scenery change from peak to peak, from county to county?
Yeah, quite a lot actually. I know on the west coast of Ireland, it's really beautiful. You're looking out over the Atlantic Ocean. So yeah, most of the scenic climbs are on the west coast. And then when you work up the east, they're less rugged. It's more like hills and kind of rolling hills. So yeah, the scenery over there, it's beautiful in its own way. Just not as rugged and wild. In the Midlands, the mountains are quite low, but they're very marsh and bogland. So they serve up their own challenges, even though they're low in altitude. They're quite difficult in terrain. And I suppose up with me here in Donegal, we have quite a unique kind of quartz mountains. They're real jagged, and yeah, the scenery is constantly changing. And look, we saw a beautiful sunset and sunrises. We were very with the weather here the weekend that we did it, because Ireland it's pretty wet most of the time, and I think we only had maybe 2 or 3 hours of rain during our whole event.
Yeah, so you had great weather.
Yeah, lucky again. It made our navigation so much easier. We were afraid that we might have low cloud cover in most of the mountains, whereas that wasn't the case. We were able to pick out every peak, and it was really easy navigation wise. So yeah, that added massively to our record time.
Oh, that's great. That's cool. So I was just thinking here, if someone wanted to come to Ireland and see Ireland, this might be a really cool way to do it, because you're going to visit every county in Ireland this way. You're going to see the way that the train changes. I guess you might miss out on some of the pubs along the way, but if a person wanted to do this at a reasonable pace, then how long do you think it would take?
Yeah, I think if you were to enjoy everything and see the sights along the way as well, you'd probably do it in a 2 week period easy. And that's taking in all the famous sites along the west coast and the cities of Cork and Dublin and things like that. So yeah, look at it. I'd recommend it to anybody, especially those coming from the States. We get a lot of American tourists up here, and yeah, they're just blown away by the friendliness of the people, but also just by the wildness, the unspoiledness of the mountains. We don't do boardwalks or fixed trails. It's very much find your own way, and a lot of people come from Europe and they find that strange. There's little development in certain mountains, which some people see as a negative, but I see it just, the mountain is it is, and make your own way up it. So yeah, look at I think any tourist that comes here, they're in for a real treat. As I say, it's a mini paradise here for adventure sports.
That's fun. That's fun. So if people wanted to come, I understand that you have your own adventure sport company, right? So if people wanted to come and try some stuff, how could they find out more information about that?
Yeah, so as being a teacher, I've quite a lot of time off, and especially around the summertime. So I have a small scale guide business here in Donegal. It's called Ards Adventures, ARDS Adventures.com. And yeah, you can check it out there. I offer kind of kayaking sessions, half days around the local cliffs and caves and things, along with other mountain biking and hiking experiences. So yeah, there's some information there on the website. I suppose if you want to get in touch, just hit me an email through that, or my own personal website is Shaun-Stewart.com. So you can get me on either of those. Yeah, but I suppose being in Donegal, it's about 3 to 4 hours from Dublin Airport, and it's probably where most tourists would fly into. So yeah, we're right up in the northwest corner, away from everybody else.
That sounds fun. So the sea kayaking, you said half-day trips. Describe what that's like there.
Yeah, so as I said, we've lots of little inlets here, and obviously the Atlantic can be quite rough at times. We're getting the full blast of the Atlantic Ocean coming in from the west. So we've a lot of little sheltered bays and inlets, which are great just for sea kayaking. Lots of great caves and cliffs. So yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, at the moment, I was out there last weekend with a few people, and all the birds are nesting at the moment. So yeah, we're looking up, and puffins and different birds just along the coastline. So yeah, it's beautiful along the coastline, I have to say. The caves and that are quite spectacular when you go into them, and We have quite large sea cliffs here as well. Slieve League is the highest sea cliffs in Europe, and only about just over an hour from me here. So yeah, some spectacular scenery to be had around here.
That sounds wonderful. You know, a lot of people like to travel to other countries just to see the country, but I think if you can plan an adventure sport, something that will allow you to really get into the natural landscape and experience it, you know, face to face, so to speak, I think it adds so much to the trip. So I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, whenever I go somewhere, I normally look up what activities there are in the area, and if I can tie it in some way, definitely. If it's climbing a mountain or getting a boat trip somewhere, yeah, it adds to the experience of the holiday, definitely.
Well, once again, that URL for your business is ARDS Adventures, so that's ARDS Adventures.com. So they can find more information there. And
Yeah.
your email address is spelled SHAUN, right?
Correct, yeah.
So Shaun-Stewart.com to find you via email.
Correct.
Very, very cool.
Perfect.
Bentgate Mountaineering, located in Golden, Colorado, has been outfitting backcountry travelers for the last 20 years. Spring has sprung, but there's still a lot of great skiing in the backcountry, and it's prime time to check out the latest in alpine touring, telemark, NTN, and split boarding gear. Bentgate carries the premier brands including Black Crows, DPS, Dynafit, G3, Icelandic, K2, Rocky Mountain Underground, Rosignol, Solomon, Voli, Never Summer, and Jones. With more people in the backcountry than ever, it's crucial to be prepared. Bentgate has the latest in avalanche safety gear from beacons to airbags. Come in and they will set you up with the proper gear and point you in the right direction to educate yourself on snow safety. If you don't own the gear, Bentgate offers a full range of rental and demo equipment, including the latest skis, boots, split boards, beacons, shovels, and probes. Bentgate also hosts free demo ski days at local resorts to give you a hands-on opportunity to ride the latest gear. Be sure to check bentgate.com for their full product selection as well as updates on all of their events.
Never run out of camp stove fuel again. The 180 stove is a natural fuel stove that eliminates the need to carry heavy, bulky fuel canisters. With a generous 6-inch by 7-inch cooking surface, it folds away into a clean, compact, self-forming case that is small enough to fit inside your pocket. At only 10.4 ounces, the additional weight and space savings allows for other important items in your pack. Get more information at 180tac.com and look for it in retailers near you as well as online.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your Donegal Atlantic Way Ultra Race, the 555-kilometer cycling event that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, so yes, it's quite a new event in that this is only the second edition of it. But yeah, it's a hell of an event. We came up with the idea, myself and a friend of mine. We thought to be market for an ultra event in the county, and the Wild Atlantic Way has been developed around Ireland. It runs from Cork right up to Derry City, so it takes in the whole west coast. And we thought, why not incorporate the Donegal leg of that? And when we added up the distance, it came out just over 500 kilometers. And we thought, yeah, it's a great event. So we opened up to solos and teams of 2, 4, and 8. So yeah, it's open to everybody really. So last year we only had about 23 entries, and this year we've capped it at 100. So it's really taken off this year, and we have some top class athletes at it. A couple of guys that are well up in the ultra endurance world. Joe Barr, who'd be quite well known. He's finished quite high up in Race Across America before. Has recently had a 3rd place in Race Across Italy. Jason Black, a local guy here, is in the ultra cycling scene. He's an Everest summiteer. So yeah, some of these guys are coming to do it, and they're throwing their hat in it. So yeah, I'm delighted to have all sorts. I mean, we have teams of ladies doing it. guys that are leisure cyclists maybe go out every Saturday, Sunday, do 50, 60 kilometers. So they're breaking it up into sections. So yeah, it's a great race. It's on the 23rd of June this year. And yeah, I'm very busy at the moment, just getting the plans in place for that to make a good race of it.
So it sounds like then if people want to participate in that, they need to plan for next year. Do you know how many people will be allowed to race next year?
Yeah, well, I think the idea is we want to keep it manageable. We don't want to lose the feel of. I mean, last year I knew everybody that came to the start line, and I hope it's the same this year. I want to be able to greet everybody and talk to everybody. So I'd like to keep it pretty tight knit, as opposed to letting it get too big and losing its appeal. So yeah, if people are interested, I mean, it's a great way to see the county, and it's a great way to see what Ireland has to offer. So yeah, if people are interested, they can look up Donegal Atlantic Way Ultra.com, and the registration will be opening sometime early July for next year. And there's lots of details on there, routes and route profiles and everything. So yeah, it's a good event. We've got a lot of the local community involved. We have the local GA club, which is the football association. They're providing our basically accommodation and different things for people. So yeah, it's a good community feel to it, and it takes in, as I said, some of the toughest roads around. I think people, they come here expecting nice tarmac, and it's anything but. The roads are rolly and quite dead on the legs, and then if the weather is not kind, it can make 555 kilometers a lot harder.
Yeah, that's a distance and a half to cover. Is it all done at one shot, or is it a staged race where you go halfway on one day and halfway on the next, or something like that?
No, it's non-stop. So we have a time limit of 40 hours. And last year there was the last rider was in 39 hours. So yeah, 40 hours it's doable. Yeah, it's still a challenge, but it encourages people to race through the night. So I know last year some of the guys near the back, they might have rode till 1 a.m. and taken 5-6 hours sleep and then continued the next day. So it is possible to do that, but most people take it on in one go. Yeah, and I suppose as a team, it's very manageable. If you're a 4-person team, it's 120 odd K each. So yeah, if you look at it like that, it's very manageable in the same sense as RAM if you split it up into a 4-man team. But yeah, as a solo, it's a tough challenge. And yeah, the 40-hour time limit, I think, it's generous enough, but it forces you to be in good condition.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun. So once again, that's called the Donegal Atlantic Way Ultra Race.
Correct. Yeah, and yeah, a simple Google search will get you out. Our website is DonegalAtlanticWayUltra.com.
Very, very cool. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the High Peaks Challenge. I would like to hear a story, if you would share with us, about one of the peaks that kind of stood out in your mind.
Yeah, I suppose the most difficult peak was one we didn't expect to be difficult, and it wasn't because of the terrain or the altitude. It was purely just because of the circumstances we were in at that time. Just to give you a bit of an insight into it, with Lonan being quite travel sick in between mountains, he was finding it really difficult to sleep and to eat, so he was slowly getting more and more fatigued. And this peak came up on the second night at about 4 a.m. And yeah, we jumped out of the van as usual and we set off. And I was doing the navigating and Lonan was just kind of following my tracks, but the mountain just turned into be it was almost like a sponge. Every step we took, the water was just coming in over our ankles, and yeah, it was just pure bogland and marsh, and it was very demoralizing at that stage of the event. And I suppose it tested both our patience really. Lonan, I'd say he was biting his lip, and as was I. But yeah, it tested our relationship definitely at that stage, and I suppose it was a long 2 to 3 hours just to get to the summit of that mountain. And I know when we didn't really talk on the way back. I knew he was suffering, and there was nothing I was going to say was going to help him really until we got back to the van. So yeah, that was probably one of the most challenging parts of the whole High Peaks Challenge. And as I said, it definitely wasn't one we had pre-planned. It just was a kind of the circumstances that we had been through leading into that, and we were definitely glad to get off that mountain.
So how many peaks had you climbed prior to this one?
Yeah, so this was in the last basically third of the event. So I think it was about our maybe 20th peak. So yeah, we were getting near the end, and with it being probably on the go for about 40 odd hours at that stage. And yeah, it was just bodies were getting fatigued and mentally we were getting drained. But yeah, we after that we decided that London needed some sleep just to reset the body. So we actually took 30-minute break and London slept for those 30 minutes. And after that, he was like a new man. Yeah, he was able to eat and he basically reset the brain. And from then on, we were slowly getting stronger and we finished really strong on the last 3-4 peaks.
So on the next peak, was the sun back up again?
Yeah, so by the time we had come off that mountain, the sun was just rising. So we had then about a 40-minute journey to the next point, County Armagh, and that's when we decided to take the break. I think it was a good decision at the time because had we kept going and persevering, I think Lonan, he was just on a slippery slope, and I'd say it could have affected the challenge long term, and that we might have had to take 2 to 3 hours rest or even more. So it was important at that stage to make a call, and I suppose ourselves and the crew just said, look, at half an hour here might gain us 2 hours later on. So we just took a half an hour break and Lonan got some sleep. I got to eat some food, and yeah, we got back at it. The sun was up, and it was a new day, and it was our final day. We knew we'd be finishing that night, all going to plan. So yeah, it was nice to see the sun up and the final push to the last peak in Donegal.
Wow. I think when people kind of hit that wall, they find that hard limit that's really pushing against them, and then somehow they overcome it. There's something that you learn about yourself at those moments. What do you think you guys learned from this whole experience?
I think myself and Lon both know how to push our bodies from a racing background, and we're not one to give in. And I think, in fairness, Lonan wouldn't have stopped. He was willing to keep going, but I just felt that we had to make the call. Because him being an adventure racer, he was going to keep going, and we said, no, look, we need rest, and he agreed. Then he says, yeah, I think it's the best option. I suppose he didn't want to be seen as if having to need rest, but look, we were all glad of the rest at that stage. Yeah, mentally he's a strong guy. Once we had a bit of rest and food, yeah, we pushed on. So yeah, I think it's important to weigh things up. I suppose I told the story to him, it's like the Shackleton effect, where he used to give his men, he would tell them that they're getting an hour's sleep and really only give them about 10 minutes, and nobody knew any different. Nobody knew any different, so he'd clap the hands and say, okay guys, let's go. So yeah, it was almost like that. It was just a psychological break, which everybody needed.
Oh, that's a good strategy, I think. So what about a favorite peak? What was one of your favorite experiences on this?
Yeah, I think we both agree that the best peak was Ireland's highest peak, Carrauntoohil. It's in County Kerry. Yeah, it was beautiful, and it was just the time of day. It was actually our first day. It was our 5th peak, and yeah, it's the highest peak. It's just over 1,083 meters from sea level, and yeah, we actually summited in just over an hour. So we had pretty hard and fast. And just as we got to the summit, the sun was setting, and the view out over the County Kerry and out to the Atlantic was just beautiful, I have to say. So yeah, that's one that will stick with us, and we actually have a great video of that up on the website. We had a Facebook live feed from it. So yeah, that's one of the most memorable peaks, definitely, for us.
So if people want to see that, how do they find it?
Yeah, so they can find it through my own website, which we mentioned earlier. There's a link there to the Facebook page that we were using throughout, and also I have some of the photographs and the videos from the experience uploaded also. So yeah, they can look it up there and see everything that took place.
So Shaun, what do you have planned for the future? I mean, this was a big feat that you just finished, but I know you must have something else out there that you're looking forward to.
Yeah, I suppose I've a lot of things planned. This year it's mostly trail running, so I have a few local races, and then I'm going to the CCC and the Ultra Trail de Mont Blanc in August. So that's my main focus for this year. And then I think next year I'm going to just maybe go to do some mini expeditions again. So a friend of mine from Germany has been on to me about doing a ski crossing in Norway. So a week-long ski crossing on the Hardangervidda Plateau up there. So we hope to do that. And actually, I've been talking to my crew that looked after the High Peaks Challenge about a future expedition that we might do, which would be a journey of about 2,000 kilometers. It would start at the summit of Mont Blanc, so the highest peak in the Alps. And obviously it would involve climbing Mont Blanc. And then from Chamonix, then we would intend to cycle across France to Calais, which is the port there. And we would then hope to kayak the English Channel, so across to Dover. And then back on our bikes again to cycle to Scotland, and then the possibility then of kayaking the Irish Channel across and making our way home by bikes again. So yeah, that's a future expedition which is going to require a lot of logistics and planning. But yeah, it's in the pipeline. So we're just trying to get some sponsors on board and stuff at the moment. So hopefully I'll be talking to you again about that.
Yeah, how cool, man. So you said about 2,000 kilometers from the top of Mount Blanc all the way back home again, and that involves climbing, biking, and sea kayaking.
Yeah, yes, that's it. Yeah, so it's a mini adventure race, really. Yeah, it's we may even throw in a marathon at some stage just to get in the running side of things. Yeah, and we estimate that we'd probably aim to do it, and weather dependent, probably 10 days or so. So yeah, that should be achievable.
That's so awesome. I love the way that you've come up with so many different ideas, things to try to do that are kind of original and fun. And when you put a goal like that out there and then it becomes a real thing, right? And then when you finally get to go and do it, somehow doesn't it add to life just knowing that you have a plan, that you have something on the horizon that you're reaching for?
Yeah, I'm like that. I mean, I need targets. They don't have to be big targets. I mean, if it's only a local race coming up in 2 weeks' time, that's what keeps me going. I think it's important just to have goals. I always differentiate between exercising and training. So when I don't have a target, I'm exercising. When I do, I'm training, so I'm more focused. Yeah, so that's the way I kind of look at things. So yeah, it's nice to have things even if they're a year away. I enjoy the whole planning and the logistical side of things as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool, man. Shaun, if somebody is hearing this and they're thinking, wow, I would love to be more adventurous, I'd love to be more active, but I don't even know where to start. I mean, it's so inspiring what you guys did here. And if the listeners are like me, they're just kind of blown away. What a neat thing to do. What recommendation would you have for them? How do people get started?
Yeah, look, there's so many options out there at the moment, especially here in Ireland. There's lots of walking clubs and 5K groups, and you don't have to go for the big stuff straight away. I would definitely be recommending that you build into things. But yeah, look, get out there. Don't be afraid to take on challenges. As I said, myself and London took this on, and we didn't know whether we were going to finish it or not. And I think that's part of the challenge and the excitement. So yeah, maybe get out with friends, go walks. You can go to your local hills and take in the mountains. It doesn't have to be massive stuff straight away. But like I encourage a lot of my students there to come along to local clubs. I think the hardest part is the first night or two, and once you realize what it's all about, your confidence comes and that nervousness just disappears. And after a couple of weeks, you've got to give things at least 2 to 3 weeks to see if you like them or not. And once you get into it, you're hooked. And it's nice to be out there in nature and getting fresh air. So yeah, don't be afraid to go on challenges and set goals, aim for them.
Well, thank you very much for your time today. I love it that you shared your story with us, and I love the way that you encourage others to get out there and do it too. So thanks, man, for your time.
Thanks very much, Curtis. Great chatting to you.
Yeah, and so for all of our listeners out there, Shaun has shown us what can be done. And like he pointed out, you can do these things anywhere, and you can find your local challenge, and it might be a smaller challenge for the people just starting out, or you can do something as big as this. It's wonderful. Remember, get out there and have some fun.
On Monday's episode, Teresa Bruce is here to talk about her trip down the Pan American Highway, chasing childhood memories from the same trip 30 years ago. Until then, make sure you get out there and have some fun.